The future can be a scary place, but fear not, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be joined by Bob Mason from FX Empire to talk through all the big news coming up next week. This is The Week Ahead. Hey Bob, and thank you for joining us. As always a massive pleasure to speak to you. I hope you're well. Let's jump straight in and look at what we're going to see next week. Relatively quiet in the middle of June, but what should we expect to see next week from the major currencies, the US dollar, euro, and the British pound?
It's quite a week next week on the economic calendar for the pound, the dollar, and the euro, but it's an important one. We've got prelim private sector PMI numbers for June due out of the UK, the US, and the Eurozone, and these numbers are going to need to continue an upward trend from what we saw in May and avoid a pullback towards the April numbers that were series lows. So that's particularly key, and we're going to be focusing on service sector PMIs. Easing of lockdown measures should be driving consumption, improving consumer sentiment. Figures are suggesting that spending should be increasing. We saw retail sales figures, and that supports that view. So that's got to be reflected in the PMIs. So that's key. For the Eurozone, we've also got out of Germany business and consumer confidence. That's another important factor that contributes to consumption. And then from the US, we got the weekly jobless claims, and then from the UK, there's Brexit. So there's plenty for the markets to consider in the week ahead.
Meanwhile, Bob, what about the Commonwealth currencies?
Yeah, for the Commonwealth currencies, RBNZ's in action next week. That's going to be particularly interesting. We saw the New Zealand economy have its worst quarter in 29 years. It wasn't, even the financial crisis wasn't as bad as what we saw for the first quarter of this year. So how's the RBNZ going to react to that? Obviously they've made some moves. They're going to want to see that pass through along with fiscal policy support from the government. But the reality is there's a long way to go for this economic recovery. So will there be any talk of further rate cuts? That could pressure the Kiwi dollar in the run up. There's trade data out as well for May, but I think the RBNZ is going to be obviously the headline for the week for the Kiwi. For the Aussie dollar and Loonie, there's not much on the data front, so we're going to see the private sector PMIs drive risk sentiment, and then obviously we're going to have the impact on commodities and so forth, and then COVID-19. What are the numbers? Are there any further spikes? Because that really would test support for these.
Okay, let's move over to the Asian giants, China and Japan. What should we expect to see from them?
Yeah, for the Japanese yen, we saw pick up an interest in the yen last week. That's coming off the back of news from the US states of spikes in COVID-19 new cases. So if that trend continues, the yen could find further support. Economic data wise, we're not going to get much interest or direction for the yen from that. So it's really in terms of what the PMI numbers are showing from Europe and the US and COVID-19. For the won, talks of lockdown measures in Beijing, that's pretty bad news for the Chinese economy. So what effects is that going to have, and is that going to be more widespread? So COVID-19 for the won, and risk sentiment in general, and economic data for the Japanese yen for the week ahead.
Finally, to finish up, is there anything notable we should be looking at in regards to geopolitics and, of course, any updates regarding COVID-19?
Yeah, on the geopolitical front, Brexit has to be the headline. Obviously, Boris Johnson and the EU have said that they're not going to extend the transition period, so pressure's on. Going to need to make strong progress from the get-go to support, obviously the pound and get the chances of a soft Brexit at least, and a trade agreement in place before the end of the transition. These are key for the pound and the UK economy in particular. Elsewhere, you've got Trump losing ground against Joe Biden in polls. Even in swing states, he's a little bit behind Joe Biden. So Trump could be looking to deliver some distraction tactics next week and change the headlines from COVID-19. Who are the usual suspects? We've got China, Russia, and Iran. So will any of those be, in Trump's sights in the week ahead? That would definitely stir the pot as the markets get a bit jittery over COVID-19.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much, Bob. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you everyone for watching. This was the week ahead. Don't forget to head over to all the Dukascopy TV social media pages and give us a follow and a like and all those wonderful things. Take care. See you soon.